Hello and welcome to the Red Devils Report, which is the Man United podcast under the upper tier flag on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Uh, Bit of a different episode here today. Going to take a look back at the reign of Ole when he was at the wheel. Obviously, he's just been sacked, mutually agreed to leave, whatever way people want to spin it. He's no longer going to be the manager of the club. Comes off the back of a very poor result and a poor performance as well. Sometimes you get a poor
very
result.
poor six results, really.
Yeah, sometimes you get a poor result though, and the performance was good, but the result isn't the one you expected or wanted. But that Watford game, it was poor on both sides of it.
I think when you go up against City or Liverpool like that,
Yeah,
there's always a possibility you're going to get beaten, and maybe that's not the game where you judge them on. But when you see what happened against Watford on Saturday, I think that's where you have to draw the line and go, we've got a massive problem here, and it's not going to solve itself, and we need to do something. You know what I mean? I think that's what happened in the end.
Yeah, well, the crisis meeting happening straight away, you knew
Yeah.
then. I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
United made a balls of it. They should have done it after the City game.
Yeah,
Give the manager 2 weeks. Like me and Ted had said it on the previous episode. I says that Watford team have had 2 weeks, very little international duty to work with Ranieri.
Yeah.
And well, they wanted it more. Simple as that.
they did, but I think you're also talking if you did let Ole go and brought someone in, before the international duty, a lot of those players are off on international duty. So then you've got a manager who's had no time with his players. And, as Darren said, you're letting Ole go off the back of a loss to Man City, who can roll any team on their day, any team, doesn't matter who you're talking. But those boys could go out there and roll anyone. I'm not saying that we were any use either, but it's not the game to judge someone off. So I can see why they held off.
It wasn't just that. There was Villa 2 weeks before Liverpool. There was the Liverpool game. The Spurs game, okay, was fine. Then they went out and lost midweek or whatever. And then they lose to
City.
We were dirt midweek in the Champions League and scraped through.
Yeah.
And then they go out and might as well have not even been on the pitch against City.
It's a snowball effect, and it's gathered pace week on week on week. Even the Spurs game and the victory, I didn't necessarily see that as a corner turned. I just seen that as a stay of execution for another week or two. It was always going to end in tragedy at this stage, wasn't it?
This was the problem with Ollie, though. He was getting one decent performance, and then it was 2 steps backwards. He couldn't. It's like he got the lads going for one game, and then they were just like, "Yeah, off you go."
Yeah, it seemed to be like that sometimes we'd get out and everything would just go our way, and we looked brilliant when things went our way. It was when things didn't look like they were going our way that there was just no change.
He didn't know how to change. That's why.
I mean, the side that we beat, like the Spurs team, is an extremely poor Spurs team.
Yeah.
Before Conte came in, so I mean, could you even call that like an unexpected result? They were dog shit before Conte came in.
Yeah.
Yeah, they looked okay yesterday, but they've just generally been relatively poor. They've been as poor as we have, maybe worse.
I didn't even think they were great yesterday, to be honest. Now I expected a huge turnaround from them.
Scraped by.
They were very lucky not to be a couple of goals down against Leeds and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think for the Watford game, I think, and we did cover this on the review, but I think that there was the correct decisions made at halftime. I'll make these 2 subs, and I think he was about to make another sub, and I think Bruno was coming off for Lingard, and then obviously Maguire gets sent off, and he has to rethink the whole substitution. So I think there was slight improvements in his decision making in terms of some of his substitutions, but a lot of the time it was still questionable.
It was too little, too late.
Here is controversial moment of the evening. Because I like to throw a spanner in every now and again.
What have you got for us this week?
I think Maguire sees reds because he knows if they get thumped, he's gone.
I thought that as well, because there was definitely a couple of moments like he was on his yellow card and then he picked up another one relatively quick after it.
Yeah.
But like there was a couple of moments where he pulled back at people and all, and you're looking at it going, are you actually trying to get yourself sent off here?
Oh, 100%. He did. As soon as he put the tackle in, he never got up. He never spoke to the ref. He didn't say, "Oh, ref, I got that." He didn't do anything.
No.
He was a guy that was so frustrated by how things were going. He was like, "I'm going to take a red here, but if I take a red, we might take a beating, and he might take a seat out of here." And that's what it looked like to me, man. And I don't like taking the man's character like that because I don't know him well enough to do that. But from the outside looking in, that's the way.
It definitely looked that way.
Yeah, it did look like he was kind of putting the final nail in the coffin, didn't it?
The one thing that got me though was like, we're losing 2-1, right? Fine. Maguire gets himself sent off, and Solskjaer makes an intent to walk over and applaud him, like gives him a high five.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that about? Like,
Well, it was the
stand
same
out on the
at the-
fucking touchline and scream at the players to do something.
It was the same at I was at the Liverpool game, and when Pogba saw red, there was some of the fans cheering, and I was like, they were clapping him off, and I was like, what are you actually clapping this fucker off for? He's only on the pitch bleeding 14 minutes or so.
I'll gladly clap him off when he leaves in the summer.
He's already seen if he even lasts that long. And you're just thinking, why are people standing and applauding this guy? You know, and they would, well, you know, he tried to, and I was like, what do you mean? Like, as if he tried to do the Liverpool boy. But so what? Like, does that make him a good guy or something?
It's not making us win the game.
That's ridiculous, man. That's just pathetic. It really, really is. Like.
Yeah, I think for a team, in terms of the team, I think this one was worse because I think up until Maguire got himself sent off, we were starting to look like we were getting back into that game. So I think that actually did hurt. Like Pogba getting sent off, yeah it hurt us. But I mean, we were already getting rolled as it was. You know, there was nothing happening with him coming on anyway.
I hadn't even seen the game. I turned it off after 10 minutes that day.
Yeah. No, the one with Maguire now, it looked like we had them on the ropes for, you know, the kind of 10, 15 minutes there where we were taking a lot of shots. And then he got sent off and they were like, right, well, now it's time to ramp it up because these boys are done.
Yeah, because really, you know, and at times we crib about Maguire, but, you know, with what we had out at the weekend, he was our most recognisable centre-half and our best centre-half, even as bad as he's been recently. So when they see him come out and all of a sudden you're left with what we're left with, they're going, we can pick the bones of this big time. You know, if we move this ball and we shift this ball quick enough, we can really, really hurt these boys because they knew we're still going to press. Yeah. And we're still going to try and step forward because you had to go for your 2-1 down. Yeah. I think we were unlucky not to get made 2-2. I know Foster made a couple of saves and stuff like that.
The one for Ronaldo before the sending off was a killer, really, wasn't it? If that goes in, United kick on, and they could kick on. Like this, I said on the review, this was the first game I didn't actually think United would come back in.
Watching at the time, I thought, I was like, we get another goal here, we'll go on and win this. But obviously that wasn't the case. In terms of his reign overall, I know from the start, Greg, you never wanted him in as the manager at all and were never impressed by him at all.
I did give him his dues when he got it right, but he was overall very poor. Good signings, but very poor.
Yeah, I think you're a little bit different, Darren. I'd be different to Greg's opinion here as well, but I think you're a bit different from me as well on this.
Well, like, I never ever felt he should have been, you know, in that position. And I've said this before, and I've said it on the, you know, on the mashups and on other bits and bobs. Like, if the other 19 teams in the league sacked their manager in the morning, would he be able to shout and get the job?
Not a chance. Not
on your Nelly. So to have him in there as you know, if we're talking about Manchester United, the biggest football club in the world, to have him in there it's a false kind of a hope in the beginning, isn't it? Now, I know we give him the job a little bit too soon for my money. He goes on that role, he beats PSG and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, everything's rosy in the garden. But I think that might have had as much to do with Mourinho leaving the building and lads being able to, you know, express themselves a little bit, as opposed to Solskjaer saying, go on out there and play this type and style of football, you know?
It really did show that very first game against Cardiff when they won, they scored 5.
Yeah.
The lads looked a lot happier, but like, he's picking he has a dinosaur formation that doesn't work because you have 2 lads that can't play that role. Well, one and a half lads that can't play that role. So I mean, Fred wouldn't probably be near most Premier League teams, and he still gets into airs week in, week out.
Well, we did pinch him from under Pep as well. Don't forget. Pep wasn't.
We also pinched Maguire under Pep, and look how that worked out.
I know, but I'm saying, like, you can't say he wouldn't get into any other team in the league when Pep's looking to bring him in at City. And we don't know how he would have fared at City under a manager with some fucking tactics either.
It might work for him, because to be fair to him, when he played for Shakhtar, he was fairly decent.
Different
going
role.
forward.
Yeah, see, well, that's the thing. He was a different role at Shakhtar. He was going forward then, so you weren't relying on him to be that defensive midfielder, which is what we were relying on him for.
He could easily get his career turned around under a new manager, but I don't see him playing too much, to be honest.
I don't rate him that highly, but I do think that he would probably get into quite a few Premier League teams, more than half, I would say. Now, the top half, maybe not, but I think he'd get into more than half the Premier League teams. I think
he would get into the Newcastle team.
I think he'd get into more than half of the Premier League teams. I just don't think he fits what we ever wanted him to be doing. And I do think that we probably he's surplus to requirements of what we have in the position he wants to play.
You've hit the nail on the head there. Like, you know, you want him to play X position, but he's a Y player. Just doesn't work. Like, we have to stop shoehorning guys into positions on the pitch, you know, and get guys that play in that position and have worked in that position, have worked well in that position and stuff like that, you know. That's like for me, it's a sad indictment of where we are, even from, you know, like, look at what we've done with Sancho and look at what we've done with Donny. Like, two more signings where you're going, we spent big money on these lads and they're not getting an absolute look in.
I think they'll be the happiest of the players to see him go. Donny definitely.
Donny should just breathe a sigh of relief and go. But here's the other thing. Like, you don't know what comes in between now and then. I know there's murmurs and rumours and stuff going around at the minute that they're doing everything they can to get Pochettino out mid-season.
Well, it looks like, according to Duncan Castles today, he's looking to buy himself out of his contract.
Yeah, so I mean, like, listen,
like, they have problems over there. Your man Leonardo's some fucking cunt to deal with.
Your biggest problem over there is Messi not wanting to be there for a start. And you know what I mean? And dragging his heels, and then everybody else is looking at him going, well, if he's going to drag his heels, we'll drag ours.
No, but it's not that. Like, you're looking at coming from the top down. Like, Leonardo's falling out with everybody. Like, he told Tuchel he wasn't good enough, and then look what he's gone on him to do.
And even Mbappe, who wants out as well.
No, he is gone. He is gone in January.
PSG is a little bit of a house of cards at the minute. Like, they're only waiting for the whole thing to implode, really.
Like, if I was taking Poch now, I'd try and get Verratti with him.
Well, I'll tell you now that I'm not overly interested in getting Poch. I don't think he's the saviour that people think he is. I think he's good enough to get you to a certain point, and then he doesn't have enough to get you over the line either here. Is he an improvement on Solskjaer's managerial ability? Yeah, he is. I still don't think that Solskjaer was as much of a failure as people think he is. I think he came in a very bad spot, and he did what we needed him to do, which was steady the ship, get us back into a decent looking form. And then the board were kind of like, after the first 11 games, were like, sign him up for a big contract, and he's not going to turn it down. You know, it's the club that he loves. He's been given a chance. Things were looking rosy for him. We'd beaten PSG. He was on an 11-game run. He's got to be sitting there thinking to himself, I've got something here, I'll take the risk. I'll take the risk. And then
there was never a risk for him. He came in as a temporary manager, and they were like, "Oh, hold on, we'll make you permanent here."
Yeah, but he could have said no to that. He could have said, "No, I've done my job as the temporary manager." And I think even taking on the full job, I think he did a lot to steady us out. We made some good signings under him. He got rid of a lot of deadwood that had just been sitting around for quite a long time.
The only thing I have to disagree with you there is, and not necessarily that I'm disagreeing, I just think he's not signing the players. So, and they're not necessarily what he wants every time either. So when we're saying, like, you're attributing the fact that we made some good signings under him, I don't think that's down to him, to be honest with you.
I think it certainly looked that way with Donny. Donny definitely wasn't a hit.
I think we learned lessons from over the previous years that we maybe didn't repeat, but I don't necessarily think they were his signings by any stretch of the imagination. And I think if you look at how little he's used certain players, you can see that, and he went back to the tried and tested and stuff like that.
Van de Beek and Sancho definitely didn't look like his signings.
Yeah, well, Van de Beek is one thing. Sancho was given chances when he first came in, and didn't really light the place on fire either. I think Sancho didn't do much for his own cause. But like the likes of Varane, like he noticed that's what we needed was a player in there.
But to be honest with you, if he couldn't notice that we needed
I
a
was going
centre
to
half,
say,
he should have been fucking
Stevie
shagged.
Wonder knew he needed a centre back, like,
No.
so let's not throw fucking bouquets at him for that.
No, I'm not saying that, but like he did, like if things, if signings are made and they're bad signings, he gets blamed for them.
Harry
So-
Maguire.
He gets blamed when the signings made are bad signings. So I think it's only fair to give him praise when a signing does work as well.
I don't go with the gaffer when the signings are made, just because I know he doesn't make them. Certainly not at United. If it was a certain other clubs, I might say the manager has enough of an influence. But I just think there's so much fuckwittery going on at our club that it's literally the toss of a coin what we get in the door.
Yeah, that's a fair
so
enough.
I wouldn't jump on him for it, and I wouldn't then throw flowers over him for United making the decision that they could get Varane out of there. Like that
was a no-brainer, really, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
No, it is. But I think he did a lot to steady us up, and he'd reached his ceiling. There was no going further for him, and just at the time there wasn't somebody there to take over the mantle. So they said, we'll try him for another year. Now we've just finished second. Maybe, just maybe, he can kick on from here. And now he hasn't, and that's
But
unfortunate.
they gave him a new fucking contract in July.
Yeah, well, that's the board all over. You can't.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah,
They knew that he wasn't going to do much.
Well, you can't say they knew he wasn't. They obviously thought he was going to. Whether they were wrong, but he's not going to turn it down either.
No, why would you?
So he thought he had a chance, that he could push on. And at the start of the season,
It looked it.
maybe we started to look a little bit like, okay, we could push on here. We'd got Ronaldo in and stuff. You were like, okay,
3
maybe
games,
we'll push
or 4
on.
games it lasted before we started to crack.
Yeah, and then things started to crack, and obviously he ended up getting the chop. I don't think he's as big a failure as some people make him out to be. Like, I think he has done a lot for this club. Forgetting about what he did as a player, as a manager, I think he has done enough for what we expected of him. I don't think anybody was thinking he was going to be winning us leagues anyway. So he came in, did what we wanted, just kept getting offered too much to stay on. And if he'd done this and then left last year and we'd got a different manager in, I think people would have had a lot higher of an opinion of him on his way out the door.
See, I don't even think you can blame a guy for, as Greg said, like, we're throwing stuff at him. What do you want him to say? No, I don't want it. But then you look at it, and then maybe you've got fans saying, we offered him this and he wouldn't take it. Like, why wouldn't he take? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't
he's damned if he does, and he's damned if he doesn't. Really. I think again we've got to look at the structure of the club, and we've got to look at who's making decisions here. And it's not from a financial point of view, because obviously we put so much money into this at this stage that success should have been a lot easier to come by than it has been. But the structure from top to bottom needs to be looked at. Like,
poisonous on the inside at the minute.
Somebody please tell me what the fuck Darren Fletcher does. So you know what I mean? Like, this is, and how he got the gig. Like, let's not forget, he was at Stoke. He finished up at Stoke, and all of a sudden he rocked up at Old Trafford. He hasn't gone and got his passport stamped anywhere and proven his way. Stevie G didn't come out of the Liverpool side and all of a sudden go into the Liverpool change room. No, he went elsewhere. He's gone to Rangers. He's done a little bit for his CV, brought them back to a league title. He's got them back into European football, playing a decent brand of football. He's gone down to Villa. He's going to try and do the same thing. So even Liverpool aren't going to say to somebody, or one of their greats, who's a much bigger great at Liverpool than Ollie was at United, by the way. Right? Yeah. They're not going to turn around and say, listen, we're going to offer you this gig based on the fact you're a great player and a great servant and the lads love you. Like, that's...
If he does well at Villa for the 3 years, he'll take the Liverpool job. As soon as...
Yeah, but if he doesn't do well, they won't give it to him.
Yeah, 100%. Like, maybe if he hadn't got a job and they needed an interim manager or something.
Possibly.
But again, that is what happened here.
But the difference was, though, Gerrard has proved that he can do something. Solskjaer had done fuck all. He got Cardiff relegated, and Cardiff were terrible.
I mean,
no, but he didn't even have them playing somewhatly well.
Yeah, but I don't think you can blame him on Cardiff. To be fair, I think that was a sinking ship. No matter who you put in at the helm there, that was going down.
Yeah, I don't think anyone keeps them up. By the way, I have to agree to their head.
No,
The
I
only
don't
thing I would
agree.
say
I
is-
don't think so either. But like,
The only thing I will say is
they didn't
I
even
think
look
there's-
like winning games.
I think there's a lot of his failings at United, and there's a little parallel with Cardiff, as in there was no style, there was
Yeah.
no brand, there was no idea of how they wanted to play, and
He
and that's
hadn't a
continued
clue.
on. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
continued on.
I think that's where he did. There was a lot of lacking from him in terms of putting his own style of play into the players. I think he's better at the background work, steadying things, being the shoulder there for the boys to go to and be like, no, go on now. This is what you need to do. Like a nice background trainer, yeah, leave him there. But to be the one making the big decisions of the style we're going to play and things like that, that was just beyond him.
He didn't have the bottle to make the big calls either. Do you know what I mean? Like the likes of leaving a Pogba out when he needed to. All right, this season he started to do it, but
I mean,
like dropping players, he wouldn't drop players that were playing badly. That's
no.
your first fucking problem.
Yeah, no, he wouldn't. And, sometimes it is hard to drop a player. Sometimes you look at them and you're like, I could drop them and then we could lose and then I'm an idiot for dropping them because
But we
if
were
I played
losing
them.
games anyway with them there.
Exactly.
I know, yeah, but
And that's where you're right saying he didn't have the bottle to do it, Greg.
Yeah.
That's where you've got to turn around and go, you know what, I'm going to make this decision, but I'm going to live by it. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, I'll take it on the chin. But don't just go through the status quo and keep getting beaten anyway. And then people saying, we didn't make this.
I mean to say people that were slating him for not swapping De Gea in the Europa League final was a joke. Like I've seen the goalkeeper being swapped out once, maybe twice. Do you know what I mean? You were never going to do that. But like there's other games where Fred didn't need to play. Like there Saturday, playing Watford, playing two defensive midfielders against fucking Watford. Now, all right, it went badly and we got destroyed. But like go out on the front
should have played
foot.
three, actually.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? He needs a result here. Needs a result. Because it's Chelsea, Villarreal, and Arsenal in the next three games.
Yeah, you've got to go out and try and win that game.
Yeah, go out on the front foot and go early.
Yeah.
If you get beat, you get beat.
Give them nothing.
If you got beat, you got beat, and you were going out on the sword. But like he went in very defensively, and
yeah, and I think there was a bit of a worry in his mind. I think when he came in first as the interim manager, I think he was more free. He didn't have as much weight on his shoulders. If things didn't go that well, sure, he was only the interim anyway. And then when it became a permanent gig, I think it started to weigh on him a bit more, and he was so concerned then about making sure he got the wins that he started going a bit too defensive and playing the two defensive midfielders. Because there was a lot of, for all the bad times we've had, there has been a lot of really great moments with him as the.
There was, yeah, but the problem was they were few and far between at times. And they were so sporadic. Like beating City 3 out of 4 times in a year was great.
Yeah.
But then you're losing to fucking Watford or losing to West Brom or losing to fucking thing. There was no consistency.
No, there wasn't. But I think a lot of people have dwelled on the poor results and have kind of forgotten a bit about some of the good results that we did get under him. So it wasn't all doom and gloom the way some people seem to be going on about it. It wasn't all bad.
No, it wasn't all bad. Like, to be honest, getting to 5 semi-finals, all right, it's harsh when you lose a semi-final, right? But like, I don't think Ferguson got however many he got to, but I wouldn't say he ever got to 5 in 2 years.
I think that was a bit of a red flag, to be honest.
Losing the semis.
Yeah, because that's basically when a manager's got to earn his salt. In the semi
to the final
and stuff like that. Like you can roll through the likes of an EFL or the likes of a Carabao Cup and an FA Cup and a Europa and not really be a whole lot in front of you until you get to maybe the quarters of the semis. And with a decent draw, you could end up in the semi very easily. So, those opportunities are going to come. But that's when you're going to go out against the likes of Sevilla, Villarreal, stuff like that, Leicester. And that's where you have to go up against somebody who technically is outdoing you on a one-to-one basis, be it Rodgers, be it Lopetegui, be it Emre, you know what I mean? And that's where I see his failings, I suppose. And that was a red flag, to be honest. That's where things started going wrong for me. And the addition of, or not the addition, the accompaniment of the lack of a style and some some tactics that we were going to play week to week rather than just this let's go out and let's react to what the other team does. Like, that's not football. You can't do that week to week and win league titles and win trophies, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but sitting back against a lot of teams as Man United is a joke as well. Trying to catch them on the counter-attack. Whatever about sitting back against a Liverpool or a City. But, like, you can't do that all the time anyway, because they'll end up beating you anyway. Do you know what I mean? Go out and impose the game. If you get beat, you get beat. But you can't sit there and try and defend for 80 minutes and hope to have a shot.
Yeah, and again, I think that's kind of what I was saying, in that when he was just the interim manager, we weren't seeing that. But then when the pressure was really put on his shoulders of, you're the actual manager now, I think, he forgot about that free-flowing football that he'd come in and that had done him so well for those first 11 games. And it kind of started to build on him. And as that happened, he kind of turtled up a bit more and more. And it was 2 defensive midfielders and 3-4 at the back, and then don't have the lads staying too far up the pitch. And it did become very defensive minded, because he was so concerned about losing. He didn't want to take the risk of going out and slaughtering a team if it meant that he could end up losing. And I think if he'd taken that risk, we probably would have gone out and battered a lot more teams rather than scraped 1 or 2. And I don't think that we would have lost a lot of those games or drawn them or whatever. I think we would have absolutely annihilated a lot of the teams we came up against.
I think whatever manager comes in has a couple of bits of business to do. The first one is to strip Maguire. And the second one is to impose an actual style of play.
The only worry with the Maguire thing for me is I don't know where you give it.
Like, people are saying De Gea, I wouldn't give it to De Gea myself. I think he'd be gone in a year or so and you're back in the same boat. Bruno will be probably the one, maybe Varane.
No, I would say De Gea, even if he's gone in a year or 2 years.
But then you're back in the same boat again.
You're not, because you've had 2 years to watch other players develop and then give it to one of them. Whereas, it's different than saying, oh, he'll be gone in 2 weeks, and then you're back in the same boat. 2 years is a long time. That does give players a chance to step up and show that they deserve to be the next captain.
I think the easiest one to look at is probably Bruno.
I think you could make a case for Varane if we could get him fully fit and get games under his belt. You know what I mean?
Or the other one that plays week in, week out, you'd look at McTominay. He's the only one that seems to have a desire to do something. At times, get himself about.
I'm going to be honest. I'd give it a fucking Ted quicker.
Yeah, I think.
No, but that's the only other person you can think of. Like, I wouldn't give it to Wan-Bissaka.
If we're looking at Scott McTominay, we may fucking stop playing football.
Listen, Scott has got all the heart. He's got all the heart in the world for the jersey, and he puts a shift in whenever he plays. Yeah. But that's not all that you need from a captain. A captain needs to be able to make the decisions. Drive the other players on. I don't think Scott has that drive. He has the ability to drive himself on, but
that's what I mean. They'd be the only sort of couple of players that you'd look at.
Yeah, Varane is probably Varane, maybe Bruno are probably the ones you'd be looking at that'll do that job for you and do it the best, I'd say, at the moment. But I don't think Maguire is the one for it either. I do think it needs to come off. That'd
be the first order of business for a new manager.
And I think. I think I'd like to see a couple of weeks without him. I think I'd like to see.
He benefited very well. That was the last season when he got injured and came back. Then second half of the season, he was immense.
I think I'd like to see Lindelof Varane for a few weeks.
Yeah,
I prefer Bailey and Varane now myself, but
Bailey's a head case.
He is, but he's a better defender than Varane is.
No, he's definitely not a better defender
than Lindelof.
When he's on form, yeah. But then, as Darren said before, you might get a 7 or an 8 out of 10 from him one week, and then a 2 out of 10 the next week. So
that's my problem with him.
Whereas Lindelof, okay, you're only going to get a 5 out of 10 every week from him, but at least that's definitely a 5. Like,
yeah.
Look, I'd be happy enough to bring Twanzebe back and play him.
And I also think Lindelof might benefit from playing beside somebody like Varane, where maybe he felt he didn't need to do things because he wasn't going to have to, make up for someone else's lack of something, i.e. speed or something like that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if he looks across and he goes, this guy can hold his own, I need to just concentrate on me. Like, we have to remember, like, he's Swedish captain there. You know, now listen, they're not full of unbelievable footballers, but he's a Swedish captain. They're playing a decent style of football. They were okay at the Euros and stuff like that. And you know, like, he's not as bad as he makes himself look at times. And I just think if you got a partner, maybe like Varane, and you got 6, 8, 10 games underneath them as a pairing, you could then judge them and go, that's working or that's not. Yeah. You know,
I think there is a thing of your centre backs are meant to be able to trust each other. You know, you look at our best one, like probably what's arguably our best centre back pairing in Vidic and Ferdinand. Those two boys trusted in each other completely. Vidic knew that if he stepped out of position, Ferdinand would cover his ass for it. Maguire and Lindelof do not trust each other, and that spreads because you can see it. And whatever, like, I know there's a lot of failings for Aaron Wan-Bissaka, but a lot of the time you can see that man constantly worried about the players that are in the centre rather than his one on the side of the pitch. He's always worried about what's happening behind him rather than what's happening in front of him. And that's because he doesn't trust his centre backs either. And the same with Luke Shaw. None of them trust each other. And that's, you know, if you can't trust the player beside you, and then the defensive midfielders can't trust what's behind them, sure, that's the spine of the team's gone already.
Reckon Steve Bruce could do a better job than Maguire at this stage?
Probably could. Probably still has enough pace in him as well to stick with Maguire.
Oh, don't forget that man scored.
Take him over 100 yards. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Huh?
I'd say take him over 100 yards.
Yeah, I'd say he has the pace
that man
on him.
scored 19 goals in one season, lads. Don't forget that.
Yeah. No, I think it's sad to see Ole go, but it was needed. And I don't know. I assume both of you have watched his goodbye kind of interview.
How many managers can you say that has been sacked by a club, right, and sat down with the media from that club and done a 12-minute interview?
What I liked is that he came out and he said it. He was like, "There's going to be, you know, media at the door, vultures, everything. I'm not doing interviews with them. This is my interview. This is all I'm saying about it." And he kind of holds his hands up and he kind of says that he wasn't ready for it. And he makes a few jokes here and there, and eventually by the end of it, he's very emotional.
They're very, very nervous jokes. He's living on his nerves, the poor man. And like, as much as I'm giving him stick over there, he got to manage, the biggest football club in the world, and I've no doubt he wanted things to end differently for himself and for the club.
Oh, 100%.
And he did put himself into it as much as he could. As we said earlier, he was extremely underqualified for the position that was stowed upon him. But to be honest, I don't think as United manager we could have asked for much more from him. Especially the way he's left them with the dignity he's left with and stuff like that. And the way
stopping to sign for fans outside, and
what I mean. Like
he's an all-round good guy. He just it wasn't for him, and that's it.
He even says it as he's leaving. In the interview, he says, like, it's not the last time you'll see me around here. Like, I'm still a fan. I still love this club. And you can see it in him. Like, he has 4 season tickets himself. Like, yeah, but like you can see it in him, like that he absolutely, bleeds for this club. Like everything, this club means everything to him. So it probably killed him to know that his reign at the helm just wasn't what he wanted it to be, and it's not what the fans wanted it to be either.
There's a part of that, though, to me, like, if you love the club that much and you see the club failing around you, knowing that it's nearly on your head, why didn't you think to try and walk away? I know it's a $7.5 million payoff and it sounds stupid, but like, you've been in that club for 20 years or whatever. You don't need the money.
No, but if you walk away and there's no one lined up to replace you.
But what's the difference? He's been sacked and there's no one to replace him.
Yeah, but if that's
at least then you have a bit of your own thing saying, well, I wasn't right for the job, rather than the job telling you you're not right.
But also, if you walk away and there's no one there to replace you, you're walking away, and then if things go to shit, it's your fault. It's your fault they went to shit. You walked away when things were bad. There is a level of that as well. You don't walk away when things are bad if you love something.
Yeah, I think there's a case to be made that he could have walked, but I understand maybe why he didn't. And, there's always that belief that you're only a result away from turning this around. And maybe he genuinely did believe he could do something, and possibly blindly at one stage.
Well, let's be fair. There's no point in being in the job if you don't believe you can turn it around.
Do you know what I mean? So, but there's got to be a realistic side of this where if he didn't watch the City and Liverpool games back and think, I'm way out of my depth here, then we're in trouble,
Yeah,
because
I think he did though as well.
Obvious,
I think he did though. I think he kind of recognized that himself, that he was, he wasn't at that level of a Pep or a Klopp or any of those big boys, and I think he did kind of recognize that. Definitely coming to the end, he did. But I did like his little joke of, he's been the manager of Molde twice, and both times he's left, they've gone on to win it the next year. So good luck to whoever takes the helm next, because there's a lot of pressure on their shoulders. And as you said, there is the jokes are nervous, but I think that's kind of him being like, he doesn't know what. I don't think he really knew what he wanted to say when he went in there. He just knew
it was a whirlwind for him at the time, and it is what it is.
I think he just knew he wanted to give the interview, and he wanted to do it on his terms, not out with reporters throwing microphones in his faces. This is what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And as much as it didn't work out for it, he'll always be a club legend. We'll never forget.
And he still holds the best red card in Man United history. Never forget that one.
Yeah, well, when you're talking about red cards, at least it was worth getting that one,
Yeah. No, he's always going to be a club legend, to be honest. His managerial reign was average at best, poor to average at best. Well, that's my opinion. Other people will say different. That might be me being a bit more biased because I didn't want him there, but I'll never slate him. You know what I mean? In terms of a player and what he done for the club. And he should leave with his head held high, but it is what it is. We weren't good enough, unfortunately, and that's it.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Darren?
No, I agree with with what Greg said. He'll go down in history as a United legend, and as a guy that was willing to step in and try to do something. But ultimately, he wasn't the right fit for us, and he was very, very green as a manager, and I think it told, dealing with those sort of big players and trying to get the best out of those big names, I think going into that, you need to have some sort of a track record where you can say, well, I worked with A, B, and C, and I did D and F, and I just don't think
it didn't help. It didn't help to have. It didn't help to have the personalities, the likes of Pogba and all there.
Yeah,
the media whirlwind storm that comes with him.
Pogba's. Yeah, you're right, Greg. He's absolute poison, and he's been a thorn in United side for quite a while now, and I think that's going to be a big weight lifted off the squad as well when he goes. By the way,
yeah,
I really, really do, and not just off the squad, but off individual players, because when he's out there, he's so demanding and he's so domineering, and it's give me the ball, let me do it. That type of thing.
He can be the best midfielder in the world on a day, but it's too far between.
Yeah. No, there's no middle ground with him. And the antics of this banging the ground and falling over, and it's just it's an awful lot to deal with when you're only showing up every now and again, and you're not maybe showing up in the biggest games. Then that's what the best players do. They show up in the biggest games.
Yeah.
Sure. No, Ole will leave, and he'll always leave as a United legend. The managerial reign, maybe not what we wanted, but I think there is positives to take from what he did for the club as the manager in terms of steadying us up, and just hopefully whoever takes the reins next now is the one to kick us on into, back into the actually really challenging for the big trophies and things like that. But
we'll wait to see.
That'll be it for this week, and as always, no matter win, lose or draw, we're United till we die, and we'll see you again for the Champions League review
Tuesday
tomorrow, and hopefully we can get a nice win with Carrick as the interim GM there, and maybe we'll just stick with loads of interim GMs because it seems to go well when we do that. But until then, good luck.
Thanks, lads.